A patient once came to me in extreme distress, terrified after finding a box of dirty, used syringes on the street and using them to inject himself. He was scared he might have contracted something. I reassured him and promised that, regardless of his test results, we'd figure out a plan. To everyone's relief, all his tests came back negative. During the same visit, I advised him to get a tetanus shot. He looked me straight in the eye and refused, saying, "Vaccines are dangerous and kill people." It took everything to stay professional in that moment. I'm not a doctor, but as a microbiology lab tech in a hospital, I once had a fully licensed board-certified doctor ask me why we couldn't just microwave Petri dishes to make bacteria grow faster and figure out the right antibiotics. I couldn't believe it. My best friend, currently a medical resident, had a patient with a severely infected wound on his face. The infection was so bad it had maggots living in it. The patient only decided to seek help after the maggots started falling into his cereal. I'm a lawyer, but I once had a consultation with a woman who'd been in a car accident and genuinely believed she had lost her brain. She thought her brain was no longer in her skull. Another client, a postal worker, wanted to sue the post office after exposure to potentially toxic chemicals from a leaking package. When I asked him to describe the substance, he said it looked and smelled like honey. I then asked what the package looked like. He told me it was a can labeled honey. I once treated a woman with heart failure who was hospitalized nearly every month for worsening symptoms. We repeatedly told her to limit her intake of salt and fluids, but every time she went home, she'd drink pickle juice. A friend of mine, a hospital nutritionist, once told me about a construction worker in his mid-30s who collapsed at work. His co-workers called an ambulance, and he was rushed to the hospital, where it was discovered he was severely deficient in almost every nutrient. My friend asked him about his eating habits, and he explained, "I don't like breakfast, and I don't want to eat lunch and go back to work, so I skip it. When I get home, my wife cooks dinner, but I start drinking beer before it's ready. By the time it's done, I just have more beer and go to bed." The man admitted he couldn't remember the last time he ate real food. He was surviving solely on beer. Not a doctor, but I'm a nurse. I had a patient who recently had 2 toes amputated because of uncontrolled type 2 diabetes. She said, "My blood sugar is only high when I'm in the hospital." I asked, "Do you check your levels at home?" Her response, "No." So I asked, "Then how do you know?" Her reply, "I can just feel when it's high." Me. I used to work as a medical scribe in a pediatric clinic. One day, a mother came in extremely concerned, claiming her daughter was turning black. Naturally, we were alarmed and started considering the possibilities. Was this an infection or perhaps abuse? It turned out the child had simply been outside playing in the sun and was getting a tan. My mother, who is a doctor, once treated a diabetic patient who believed she was allergic to water. As a result, she refused to drink anything but CocaCola. That one has always stuck with me. I have a lot of wild stories as a dentist, but one that stands out is a man in his 40s who complained that all of his teeth had started hurting constantly. As we talked, he casually mentioned that his acid reflux had been acting up a little. For him, a little meant spending hours every night walking around to ease his stomach discomfort if he ate dinner too late. After digging deeper, I learned he had started drinking 6 liters of seltzer water every single day in an attempt to lose weight. 6 liters. His gastrointestinal system was essentially drowning in acid and bubbles, and the enamel on his teeth was eroding as a result. I told him he needed to give his body a break and start drinking plain water occasionally.